a Hall of Famer waiting in the queue. We're going to bring on Joe Thomas here in a second after a quick word from FanDuel. Guys, the NFL playoffs are here. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Every play feels bigger. The boost makes your bets feel that way too. You make your picks just like normal, then apply the profit boost to go after even bigger payouts. While the playoffs get rolling, just visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. And with that, we are now thrilled to welcome on, as I've told you guys before, my personal best friend, who looks even better than usual today with the beard. Joe, come on. You didn't tell me we were going the beards out in 2026.
Quality gray. I like the
I feel like I let you down by shaving on Monday.
Yeah, wifey gave me permission to finally just let the beard grow out and be Santa Claus next year. So we're going full Santa Claus. You got to keep the face warm these cold Wisconsin winters. And I'm kind of liking it. Yeah, it's getting a little bushy, but I'm enjoying it right now.
This is messed up, Joe.
Yeah.
I've been growing my facial hair for 6 months, and this is all I got.
He can't even get a full beard.
This is nasty. This is nasty work right now. I need the chia pet.
Yeah.
I used to have one of them when I chia. I put the
We've been working on this baby for about a month, so that gives you an idea.
That's a month, bro.
He's hairy. He's a hairy baby.
You guys, I started in the beginning of December, maybe second week of December on my birthday. Okay. So hair grows a little faster on these Germans over here.
just not so much up top.
Yeah, nothing up top. That's why it's putting all its energy right here. Ooh, the force is going all through the face.
You look a little now like a skinny Andrew Whitworth. That's what, He's got that beard going on. Hey, Joe, I think this is the toughest question you've ever been asked, I'm going to say. If you had to, you're still playing, you're in the middle of your career right now, and you had to choose, you have to play for either the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, that's a setup question.
Who do you
Joe.
play for? If you had to choose.
Leave it
it's
to
the worst question, toughest question ever.
Setup.
Right now, like the current teams that they have.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine. I'll give you that. Then you pick the Ravens, right?
So I play for Baltimore because they've got a better quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Pittsburgh is going to be in a lot of trouble right now because I think it's pretty clear that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there. He's probably going to retire, and they've got an overpriced old defense. They don't really have a lot of weapons that are going to be coming back that are kind of in their prime that they can build around a young quarterback. So I think they're in a world of hurt, and I think that's a big reason why Mike Tomlin decided to step down.
Yeah. The guys were saying, Dustin said, because we were talking about, with the Browns, could Mike Tomlin or Harbaugh ever coach the Browns? And he made the point, it's like, that would be like Jim Tressel coaching Michigan. It just is that. Do the coaches and players feel that way? I mean, I know. Listen, Joe Hayden was Mr. Cleveland just like you, and he went to the Steelers. I know he was cut.
It's different. I think as a player, in he was there 19 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And he won the division 8 times in Super Bowl. I mean, guys, they've had 4 coaches in 60, 70 years.
Yeah.
So
is it different? Sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, I think it is different, right? Yeah. As a coach, you don't really get drafted. You don't go through free agency. You don't really ever get just taken and traded to another team. I mean, there's exceptions to that rule, of course, but for the most part, you're kind of known for being the coach of that team because you decide, you get hired, you're there until they get rid of you. And when you've had great success, and they'll probably have a Mike Tomlin statue outside the stadium, I would assume at some day. 18 years, no losing seasons. You win a Super Bowl, had great success. I would think that they want to remember this guy as a Pittsburgh Steelers coach forever. And certainly part of his legacy is being this amazing coach. And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, if he goes somewhere else, it's going to feel like you tarnish that legacy a little bit. And I think it is different from being a player when, like Joe Hayden, we cut him in Cleveland. So what was he supposed to do? He wants to play, he wants to work. And so I think for players, it's a little bit different than it is for coaches.
Joe, when you look at this coaching search, I'm torn a little bit because I've been talking about it's just all about where you are in your career. When you're Harbaugh and you're Tomlin and you put that much work in other places, you don't necessarily want to go to a place where you're starting over again. Like I make the The example, hey, listen, if I'm no longer with my beautiful wife, I'm not going on no dating app dating on 25 years. I can't do that, bro. I have no time and energy for none of that. And I think Harbaugh may be in a position where he's not going to do that. My question to you is, do you believe that the Browns head coach, the next one, has to have head coaching experience? Or are you okay with a first-time McVay upstart, 30-something hotshot coordinator?
I think I'd be okay with either approach, but I think it's really important that the Browns get it right this time. And it's easy to say, it's always important for them to get it right, but they've got a really good defense, right? But it's hard to keep great defenses together. They've got some nice weapons on offense, but you need a guy that comes in that's going to be able to set a culture, because I think if you can find a quarterback, or if maybe you believe that Shedeur Sanders is your quarterback, you've got a chance to flip this relatively quickly, but it starts with building that culture. And I think if he is a young hotshot, it's never been a head coach before. I mean, we've seen it where guys come in and are great leaders and great culture and building foundation builders, like Dan Campbell, right? He was a first-time head coach. A lot of guys were scratching their heads when he got hired, especially when he talked about biting off kneecaps and everything, but he has built a tremendous culture. And I think that's what Cleveland needs to look for, almost probably more than they have in the past, when they're maybe looking for, the offensive wizardry or bringing in, defensive minded guy to get the defense right. Like, I think the pieces are potentially close to being there, where if you get a guy that comes in and sets that foundation and that culture and that direction, I think that is probably the one key characteristic that the Browns should be looking for in this hiring cycle, above the other hirings that they've had to do in recent memory.
Joe, you were here in 2014 when Mike McDaniel was in Cleveland. He gets let go from Miami. Obviously, he's going to be in play. I don't know if he wants to come to Cleveland or if the Browns want him back in Cleveland, but you were with him for a little bit of time. Do you like that move? Would that interest you at all?
I really liked Mike McDaniel. I thought he did a great job early on, especially when he was in Miami. I think he's maybe a little bit of an acquired taste, right?
Yeah.
He's got a very different, unique offense. It really obviously highlights the speed and the space that his talent on offense was able to create. I don't know if we have that talent and that speed to be able to do that here. Right. We have question marks at quarterback. And I'm not sure he is the culture builder that like maybe a Dan Campbell or a John Harbaugh is, or a Mike Tomlin. And I would lean more towards having that culture builder type coach versus a guy who's more of the X's and O's person, which McDaniels is. And I think you pair McDaniels with a talented offense, it's going to be, Star Wars offense, and they're going to be really good. And you're going to see what he did down in Miami early on. But I see this team and the makeup that we have and the opportunity to be really good pretty soon a little bit differently than kind of where somebody like a Mike McDaniel could come in and really unlock the power that this franchise has the potential to unlock.
Joe, it does seem like, I'm with you, I think they need a culture-building coach. I was suggesting Brian Flores, and doesn't seem like he's getting a lot of buzz as head coach candidates. I know Brian Hoyer loves him and spoke highly of him, but it seems like most of the guys they're interviewing to this point are more of the Mike McDaniel, Kevin Stefanski ilk, more X's and O's, maybe number-based guys instead of culture builders. Does that concern you?
It doesn't concern me, because some of those guys we just don't know a whole lot about because they haven't been head coaches before. Obviously, Mike McDaniels has been. But, some of these other younger guys, because maybe they haven't been within our conference or within our division, or you just don't know them because as a coordinator, they don't have the visibility that a head coach does. So I don't think people knew Dan Campbell outside of maybe people that played with him or worked with him. And, he came in spitting fire and brimstone. And people were like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? And you don't really know, other than maybe our experience as fans watching on TV or hearing in the media, whereas people that are on the inside that are doing the hirings, that know these people, that have connections to these other coaches, they know the personality and their ability to build that culture and to have that leadership. In addition to maybe being an offensive wizard, I give the example of Kyle Shanahan. he's a great culture builder. You know, he's a different style than a John Harbaugh, Tomlin, Dan Campbell. But when he came in as an offensive coordinator in Cleveland, people just kind of thought of him as, well, he's had some good offenses and, you know, he runs his dad's offense, but he's not a leader. He's a young guy. You know, he's kind of got that California swagger to him. But he was a heck of a culture builder. And being a culture builder doesn't mean that you don't have necessarily offensive skill sets from an X's and O's standpoint. Like Kyle's the smartest offensive mind I've ever been around, but he's also not a yeller and a screamer. And so sometimes as fans, we just always equate a guy that's screaming and, you know, blowing a gasket on the sideline with being the culture builder, because that's how we can see and understand, you know, what the standards are and holding people accountable and things like that. But Kyle did it in different ways that fit his personality, that actually got probably the most out of professionals that I've ever been around, because he helped you understand, look, I'm giving you a game plan that's going to be a leg up on your opponent, and all you have to do is do exactly what I tell you to do, and we're going to win this game, and you're going to be fabulously wealthy because everybody in the NFL is going to want to sign you because I'm putting you in the best position to succeed. So you better take the reins now, and you better run with it because you have this amazing opportunity. And he kind of built you up like that. And he built the standards of what he expects out of everybody in a little bit of a different way because of his emotional intelligence. And so I think it is hard to say from the outside, not knowing a lot of these guys, even Tommy Rees being in-house, we don't really know what he could be from like a culture building standpoint because you just don't know the coordinators. They're just not visible like a head coach is.
Great point. Joe, getting back to Mike McDaniel for a minute, it's been suggested that, you know, and we don't know if Shedeur Sanders is going to be the quarterback next year or whatever, but that Mike McDaniel in particular is not really a great fit for Shedeur Sanders because Mike McDaniel's offense is based on timing and playing in rhythm and not like, you know, Shedeur sometimes is at his best when he's not playing with timing and he's just kind of doing his own thing. Do you buy that or no?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say yes or no because one, I don't think that you want to hire a head coach based on his fit with Shedeur Sanders because I don't think Shedeur has done enough yet to say he's definitely our franchise quarterback.
Agreed.
I mean, our staff right now is starting to evaluate the quarterbacks that are coming out in this draft, and we don't even know if they're going to evaluate one of those guys and really like him that they'll be able to have a chance to select. And then if they pick a guy in the first round, you know, as much as we've enjoyed the Shedeur Sanders experience here in Cleveland, like that is them saying, hey, we got another guy. We don't need Shedeur as our starting franchise quarterback. If they don't draft a quarterback in the first round and they say, yes, we want to give Shedeur another year, that just means that he's guaranteed kind of to get that opportunity to grow in this year. So I think trying to tie those two together is a bad decision. It's different than if you have a franchise quarterback that you're sure about that you're going to build around. Then you want to maybe pick a head coach based on that. Kind of like when I think about the Green Bay Packers when they hired Matt LaFleur, it was like they had Aaron Rodgers. They wanted to have somebody who could build an offense that would fit him because you know Aaron is going to be there. The other part of it, I think, when you look at the head coaching position and Shedeur, I would say that with Shedeur, I think he's got a lot of opportunity to grow into anything that the next head coach wants because he only started about half the season and he really didn't get any practice time giving an opportunity to break any of the bad habits and start playing in rhythm before he became the starter, which it's really hard to learn on the job, especially at quarterback in the middle of the season, because you're not getting just endless reps and practice and film review because you're so focused on getting ready with game plan for that game that weekend. So I think that Shedeur still has an opportunity to prove that he can play within the structure of an offense and he can throw with timing and get rid of some of those bad habits, like always putting the ball in his left hand when he's trying to run. And, you know, he quickly got out of that bad habit of just drifting back and running and trying to escape through the back of the pocket all the time. And so I think if you do get a head coach, one, don't pick it because it fits Shedeur Sanders. Pick him because you think he's a great head coach and you think he's a great culture builder and a great leader. But if you do decide after you go through the draft process that you want to give Shedeur an opportunity to be the starting quarterback for this team next year and beyond, he's got an opportunity to grow into whatever that vision can be with that new offensive coordinator and head coach.
Yeah, I like what you said. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is by any means a finished product, and I think that works in his advantage sometimes. And I think that could be seen as a positive because he has an opportunity to grow and to get better and to like see himself in another opportunity to kind of acclimate himself in 2026 and get better over the offseason. So I agree with that. Joel, I'm going to ask you about Jim Schwartz. Jim has been on the roster, been on the staff, for a while now. He did get an interview with the Ravens. What are your thoughts on Jim Schwartz, and would it be a positive or kind of a negative that he hasn't been in a coaching search for a long time? And do you think because he does have those existing relationships with the defense and the ownership that he is going to get a serious consideration for the job?
He should definitely get serious consideration. Jim Schwartz, I think, would be an excellent head coach. I think he would be an excellent culture builder. He's an excellent leader. He's got rapport within that building. And the great thing for the Browns is they know how he leads. They know how he coaches because he's been around. And so they have a really good sense of what he can be as a head coach, as that leader of men, as that coach of the coaches, which is what the head coaching role is. So I think he could be potentially a great candidate. But then you do pick a defensive-minded guy whose specialty is on defense. Finding that offensive staff, that offensive coordinator, whether it's Tommy Rees or somebody else, is going to be crucial, right? Because when you bring in a defensive-minded head coach or a special teams coordinator who's more of a culture builder, like what the Ravens did with John Harbaugh, if you have a veteran quarterback and you've got an offense that kind of runs well around them, like it's much easier to just be the delegator, be the leader, be the culture builder, be the vision guy, be the voice of the franchise. But when you have a situation like the Browns are in where you have either a young quarterback with Shedeur or you're going to probably be drafting a guy, like you guys are molding each other together in that position. And the head coach really has to be in that room molding that young quarterback because it's the most important position, most important employee in the entire franchise. And so I think you would have to really, really feel great about that offensive coordinator who's going to be there because Jim doesn't have that depth of knowledge of offense to be side-by-side best friends with whoever that quarterback is going to be for the Browns to help him grow and mature as an NFL starting quarterback.
Joe, we have run 1,000 polls in the history of UCSS in the chat, and maybe less than 5 have had a almost 50-50 split. But we ran one this morning that had a damn near 50-50 split. We asked the chat, if both Tomlin and Harbaugh were willing to come to Cleveland and you had to choose between the two, which head coach would you prefer to be the next head coach of the Browns? I know you didn't play for either, but you did play against both, so I'm curious from your perspective. Neither we don't think is coming to Cleveland, but if you had to choose Harbaugh or Tomlin, who do you think would be a better fit in Cleveland?
I'd like Tomlin for 2 reasons. One, I think he's probably done more with less throughout his career than John Harbaugh has done. And then 2, I think that he is an incredible motivator, and I would certainly love to hear his amazing quotes and his one-liners that he's always throwing out there in his press conferences. He would make every media day entertaining and exciting and interesting because he is just so funny. He's so direct. He is such a great communicator. And I think for a franchise at the position that the Browns are in right now, searching for that breakthrough coach that everybody in the organization and the city can rally around, I think Mike Tomlin is that type of guy. Now, I think it's more likely, to be totally honest, I think that Mike Tomlin goes into media because he's going to realize that there's a lot of networks that are going to pay a heck of a lot of money to have him work 1 day a week and not have any stress and just bring his personality and his one-liners and his sense of humor to the media role. Agreed. And it's a heck of a lot less stressful than it is being a head coach and trying to build another franchise and start over again somewhere else.
Joe, last football question. Jerry, because we're going to talk about this a little bit. I'm curious your take. Jerry Jeudy, the Browns traded him for him 2 years ago. Obviously, in 2024, he had a tremendous season. That wasn't a good season for the team, but he had a tremendous season, put up huge numbers, which he had not done in Denver. This past season, a disaster. Probably worse than any of his seasons in Denver. Tons of drops, arguments on the sidelines. Who's the real Jerry Jeudy? What should we expect in 2026 from him?
Well, I think Jerry's a little bit of a front runner, and you get that with a lot of receivers. He's got a lot of talent. He's shown that he can be super productive if he understands the offense, if he feels good about it, if he feels good about his relationship with his quarterback, if he's getting the ball. Like, he's a bit of like a hot and cold shooter is in basketball, right? When things are going well and he's making his shots, he can carry that hot streak throughout the entire season. He's not the type of player, I think, that can just take over the game no matter who the quarterback is or no matter what the offense is. And I think they knew that when they brought him here. And I think that's okay, right? Like, you've got to have other receivers that can make plays, that can be big-time players in big moments. And it doesn't always have to be that, like, Calvin Johnson type guy that just doesn't matter who's out there. He's going to get the ball and he's going to get his numbers and he's going to make his yards and have his production. So I just think that if you get the offense right and you get a quarterback that can get him the football, he has the opportunity to get hot and to be the Jerry Jeudy we saw previously that was a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. But, he is a guy that when drops happen or maybe he's not feeling confident, like, he loses the belief in himself to be able to make those plays. And that's why you start seeing those drops, and then one drop leads to another. And, I think some of that will go away as he matures a little bit and gets a little bit older in this league. But I think it's really important to understand that, hey, we got to get the quarterback right. We got to get the offensive coordinator right. And then that unlocks Jerry Jeudy's potential to be the best version of himself, which is a Pro Bowl caliber receiver.
A lot of really good games this weekend, man. A lot of really good games this weekend. Yeah. Are the Bills going to be able to go to Denver and get it done?
I believe so. I got my Bills winning the Super Bowl as a Browns guy. There's a little kindred spirits between the Buffalo fans and the Browns fans, being Rust Belt cities, being these amazing, passionate fan bases that have never won a Super Bowl but have always shown up for their team. And I love watching Josh Allen, and I love watching playoff Josh Allen because he just puts that team on his back. He goes hero mode, plays hero ball, but it's necessary because he doesn't have the team around him that he has in the past. But I think he sees that he doesn't have to go through Patrick Mahomes, and he's got some other young, inexperienced playoff quarterbacks in that AFC. And I think he realizes that whatever it takes this year, he's going to do it, whether that means he's got to rush for 100 yards in every game or throw for 400, because I think he believes that this is his opportunity to win his Super Bowl because the path has been cleared without Patty Mahomes. And I believe the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Joe Tom is not only an expert, of course, as we all know, on football, on cheese, but also meat, red meat in particular. Joe, the best way to cook a hamburger and for temperature, do you just know, or do you have to use a thermometer to get it the right temperature you want?
It's a disrespectful question to someone who runs a company called Hall of Fame Beef Bowl. Come on. Joe,
why is that a disrespectful question?
Of course he doesn't need a thermometer.
He's giving me the opportunity to spout my professional Hall of Fame level knowledge of cooking beef. So I appreciate the platform here.
Thank you.
If I'm going low and slow on the smoker, I like to use a meat thermometer, obviously, to know like that internal temperature, know when your brisket's going to the stall and how to get through that and stuff like that. When I'm cooking hamburgers, steaks, things like that, you just know, right? You kind of know what you're trying to get done as far as the temperature goes. And I really cook everything to medium rare. That's my little tip, right? If you're doing steaks, everything goes medium rare. And then if you have people like my wife and my children who tend to like it more medium or medium well, which, by the way,
Joe, don't say that, Joe.
By the way, we have solved them of their sins. Their sins have been absolved, and now they like medium rare because they've been eating Hall of Fame Wagyu.
Well done.
And the intramuscular fat and the buttery mouthfeel that provides when you bite into that steak is so amazing that they've finally understood why everybody wants their steaks medium rare typically. And it always a texture thing. I didn't understand that. Kids are such texture people, right? You give them like a chicken nugget, they love it because it's got that crunch, but it's also not tough at all. You give them something with another texture that's an amazing flavor, and they hate it. They spit it out. It never made sense to me, but this was like my aha moment. I'm like, they don't like medium rare steaks that they're normally used to because it's a little too chewy for them, right? And they have to get to that medium well, almost a hamburger, right? To be able to get something that's not chewy. And so they thought it was because of the color on the inside, but it wasn't the pink, the warm, rosy red center of a medium rare steak that they didn't like. It was just, that's what they were seeing, that reflected in their brain that they don't like medium rare. But with the Hall of Fame Wagyu, because it's still tender at medium rare, it still melts in your mouth. It still falls apart when you bite into that delicious New York strip. They've been converted. And they are now on the right side of the law. They're on the right side of Jesus. They cook all their steaks medium rare, and they even order it when they go to the restaurants that are serving Hall of Fame beef.
The proud papa.
I got a quick rapid fire on your briskets. Are you wrapping them in butcher paper or foil?
I like butcher paper. I think for some reason it needs to breathe a little bit, but I'm going to give you a little secret. I do sous vide most of my briskets, especially when I'm cooking them in the winter, because my big custom offset smoker that I have, it's at the farm, and it's hard to maintain that temp when it's freaking cold and 40-mile-an-hour winds like it is outside today in Wisconsin. So I usually sous vide them, and then I'll finish them either on the grill or in the oven and get that really nice finished bark that you'd like to have. But I'm a butcher paper guy, but I think science has proven that I'm not sure it really matters, but I think maybe that's just because that's what I started right now.
Membrane off or on when you're cooking ribs?
I like it off. I just think it provides a better texture to pull it off so you don't have any of that membrane on the underside, because growing up in the Midwest, my mom used to boil ribs and then cook them, and she'd say, "Look, they're fall off the bone ribs." I'm like, "Yeah, and they're dry as a cork too." It doesn't mean I like it. But it wasn't until I went down to Texas with Colt McCoy and realized, wow, what a real barbecue rib tastes like, where it's not falling off the bone. There's a little bit of bite. You have to tug that meat right off the bone to be able to get it, but that's the proper texture that you want. And I think with that, you got to take the membrane off so you have that beautiful mouth experience that hits with the way it just tugs off the bone. And then once you start chewing it and you get through that light layer of bark, all those juices, those delicious fats, and that lovely smoke profile with some saltiness, and then it just melts in your mouth and you're just a happy man, ready to retire to the couch with a beer.
I'm hungry.
Hey, Joe, real quick before you go, are you a reader of fiction, or do you not have time for that? Like, you read before bed or no?
Nope. No time for reading, unfortunately, other than the World of Wagyu auction books I read.
All right. There's an author who writes about this character in Wisconsin, so I thought you might be interested, but I guess not. Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.